Welcome to our very important session of understanding how colleges in the US in particular help students develop a path to careers and why a liberal arts education, though seemingly nebulous, can be an excellent preparation for various career paths and for students who are even thinking of changing careers, especially now with the millennials and Gen Zs doing that all the time. It's going to be a fascinating conversation with you, Shirley. So welcome.
Thank you, Arjun. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Just a quick introduction. Shirley Bay is an assistant dean of studies and director of international admissions and student advising. So that's almost like wearing three hats. And we're delighted to have you. So tell us a little bit about your job, Shirley, and then we'll dive into a few questions.
Okay. Well, I work at Sarah Lawrence College, a small liberal arts college just outside of New York City. It's a very interesting school. As Arjun said, I do different things. As in my admissions role, I coordinate international recruiting. I've traveled in many countries around the world. I visit high schools, I interview students, and I read files. I help with decisions. And once students decide to come to Sarah Lawrence, I process all of their immigration papers so they can get the I-20 to get the visa. Then I welcome them and their families to Sarah Lawrence, and I support them for the next 4 years. I help with work authorizations and with post-graduation work plans. So that's what I do.
Okay. And as far as this international student advising part, you've already touched upon the nitty-gritty of it. Of course, there's a softer part to it too, right? Dealing with students and understanding what their needs could be. What do you think most students are thinking of using resources at your office at this stage? Not just the incoming, but also the kids who would be planning to use career services and internship opportunities.
Okay, well, I think students who go to liberal arts colleges are interested in the world, they're interested in their role in it, and more and more, I think they're looking quite far ahead, which is a good thing. They're taking their courses, but they're also preparing for what's coming next. So many of them are interested in doing internships along the way. They can do unpaid or paid internships at their time at Sarah Lawrence. And they're also looking toward post-graduation, toward their plans. And we have a career services office that helps them.
Right, so how does the international advising work in terms of the CPT rules? What do the students really need to know about in terms of applying for internships? And how does it connect with the field work requirement at Sarah Lawrence College?
That's a good question. That's also a complicated question.
Yeah.
Number one, students should know that they have to pay attention to the United States immigration rules and employment rules. And one part of my role is that I'm there to interpret the laws for them and guide them. But what students want to do is what we like them to do, and I actually introduce the career services people to the students the very first week that they're there. We'll be doing that virtually this year. But I want students we want students to feel very comfortable to be able to go to the office, the career services office, whether in person or now more online, I think. But we have a very friendly office with wonderful people who are very enthusiastic. The director of career services and the assistant director are both good friends of mine. What they do is they help the students to understand the resources that are available. There's something called Handshake, which they log into and they can find internships that way. But these people at Sarah Lawrence are there to help with resumes, help them understand how to do research, how to use the internship fairs that we hold about 3 or 4 times a year. They connect them with alums in different fields. They have field trips into nearby New York City. So that's what they do. That's what that office does. But once a student finds an internship, my job is to explain to the student how they can knit it together with a course at Sarah Lawrence. And what that enables them to do is earn credit for that course, work legally, that's very important, and they receive a work authorization, and I'm the one who authorizes them. So I just have to understand how they're doing their coursework. But they do get credit for it, and it's a wonderful opportunity. That's called curricular practical training, and it's a little complex, but once I explain it to the students, they understand. And I give workshops on it during the year.
So over so many years or decades of being in different institutions, and mostly your time at Sarah Lawrence, you must have had the pleasure of really following journeys of students who've stayed in touch with you, and many have. And I know that so many international students from India remember Sarah Lawrence because of Shirley Bay, and it's just fascinating that you've been in touch with so many. So what do you think are the typical career paths you've seen evolve from kind of outcomes from Sarah Lawrence recently, which have been fascinating?
Okay, well, the first thing is that there is nothing typical, but some of my fond memories of students are, we have one student who studied, took a lot of interesting courses at Sarah Lawrence and ultimately went to journalism school and writes now for a food publication. So that student went to Columbia School of Journalism. We have another international student who, from Malawi actually, who went to a United World College, who ended up going to the School of Public Policy at Oxford University in England, and now works in London for a think tank. She studied economics and psychology. We have another student who studied psychology, and she is now teaching neuropsychology at a large university in the western part of the United States. I'm looking at my world map up there. We have another student who studied philosophy and Russian and literature and writing, and is now a food writer and a kind of an important chef. He teaches cooking, but at a very high sort of intellectual level. Then these are international students, but we have domestic American students. Ian Lipkin is a very famous virologist who was actually the advisor to the Chinese CDC in Wuhan in January. He's a professor at Columbia, very famous. But I mention him because people associate Sarah Lawrence a lot with the humanities and the arts, but we have a strong sciences department, and he's a very prominent researcher. Writers, so students have done many, many different things, and we help them find their path.
Thank you so much, Shirley. Looking forward to seeing you at the fair.
Oh, thank you, Arjun. I enjoyed this, and I would be happy to connect with any students who want to speak with me.